Hey everybody, welcome to a new episode of Loomer Unleashed. I'm your host, Laura Loomer. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about how the Florida Republican Party is changing its rules in a last-minute attempt to try to sabotage President Donald Trump's chances of securing the GOP nomination in 2024. Now, as some of you may know, Florida happens to be the largest swing state in the country. It has a total of 125 GOP delegates in a winner-take-all primary. Why does this matter? Well, the Florida Republican primary is set to take place in March of 2024. It's one of the earliest primaries in the country, and it's going to play a big role in whoever becomes the GOP nominee for president leading up to the 2024 general election. Prior to running for president in his position as governor of Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis, many would say, was the head of the Republican Party of Florida. While the Florida GOP is supposed to remain neutral in the presidential primary, the exact opposite is happening. And if you've been following my election coverage and reading my Substack, you know that there are egregious conflicts of interest that currently exist within the Florida GOP, as it surrounds the current chair, Christian Ziegler, the vice chair, Evan Power, and the relationships that their wives each have with Governor Ron DeSantis and his presidential campaign. Anybody that was paying attention in 2015 and 2016 knows that one of the things that the RNC tried to do in an effort to undermine President Donald Trump was force him to sign a loyalty oath to support whoever the party nominee was. That's because the RNC greatly and to their own detriment underestimated Donald Trump, and they didn't think that he was going to be the nominee. And of course, they were certainly in for a rude awakening, because not only was President Donald Trump the nominee, but he went on to win the election in 2016, beating Hillary Clinton, and turns out he's the best president this country's ever had. And now, in a last-ditch effort by the RNC in an effort to sabotage Donald Trump and prevent him from being on the ballot in 2024, the RNC and the Florida GOP are trying to implement their own loyalty oaths. And it's not just a loyalty oath if you want to debate. No, the Florida GOP just announced this last week that they are requiring presidential candidates to sign a loyalty oath if they even want to appear on the Florida ballot. Now, you have to win the state of Florida if you wish to secure the GOP nomination. You need to receive Florida's 125 delegates if you wish to be the party nominee at the convention. And so this poses a big dilemma, because obviously the Florida Republican Party knows from 2016 that President Donald Trump is not in the business of signing these ridiculous loyalty oaths. And along with their loyalty oath, they're trying to charge insane amounts of money for candidates who wish to participate in their Florida Sunshine Summit, where they have invited each of the candidates running for president on the Republican side to make their case to the voters. Now, following the announcement of the new rules at the Florida GOP, Florida GOP Chairman Christian Ziegler released the following statement saying that candidates shouldn't be able to use Republican resources and platforms to get their positions and become well-known and then turn around and use it against the Republican Party. It goes against our mission. So I think that some of that came into play, and that's why we requested the pledge was put into place. So essentially, let me break this down for you. Christian Ziegler is married to Bridget Ziegler, as I have previously reported. Ron DeSantis appointed her to a board position on the Reedy Creek district. Evan Power, who is the vice chair of the Florida GOP, is married to Melissa Power, who is currently the CFO for the Ron DeSantis for President campaign. And of course, that means that she's going to be making hundreds of thousands and perhaps millions of dollars fundraising for the Ron DeSantis campaign if it is commission-based fundraising. And now, in an effort to further alienate Donald Trump, knowing that he has previously stated that he will never sign a loyalty oath, they are trying to make it so that he can't even be on the ballot in the state of Florida by forcing him to sign a loyalty oath or else. This is not how it's supposed to be. The Florida Republican Party is trying to demand that Donald Trump take a loyalty to the party over the people. And look, if Donald Trump doesn't support Ron DeSantis or whoever the nominee may be, it's going to be Donald Trump. But hypothetically speaking, if it isn't, Donald Trump doesn't have an obligation to support the nominee. If Donald Trump doesn't agree with the policy positions and doesn't like the candidate who's the nominee, why should he have to stand by him and endorse him? You should only have to endorse a candidate if you truly believe in the candidate. Not only does this loyalty oath require them to sign a loyalty pledge if they want to be on the ballot, but it also requires them to pledge that they will not run independent or third party if they do not win the nomination. So you see that they're already trying to concoct a plan to rig this election for Ron DeSantis. This is a serious problem, and it just goes to show you that whether it's mail-in ballot fraud, big tech election censorship, or changing Florida's resign to run law so that the governor can keep his salary on taxpayer dime and then run for president, the party is willing to change rules to alienate Trump supporters, alienate Donald Trump, and get their way. They know that the American people are on heightened alert for mail-in ballot fraud. They know that the evidence has been released that shows that big tech conspired with the federal government to steal our elections. And so the only way that they can now get away with stealing the election and preventing Donald Trump from securing the nomination is through procedural gimmicks and last-minute rule changes. And this is exactly what the Republican Party of Florida is doing. Now, Donald Trump isn't the only candidate who has refused to sign a loyalty oath. Just a couple weeks ago, when he was asked a question at a press conference, Governor Ron DeSantis completely refused to answer as to whether or not he would support Donald Trump if he was the nominee. And so is the Florida Republican Party going to prevent Ron DeSantis from being on the ballot in Florida for the primary if he doesn't sign this loyalty pledge? Or is this just a way to further alienate Donald Trump and strip Donald Trump of Florida's 125 delegates? As is often said, how goes Florida, goes the nation. And so it's certainly important what's going on here in the state of Florida, but are you aware of what's going on in your state GOP? How many other state GOPs are changing the rules at the last minute in a similar way to try to prevent Donald Trump from being on the ballot? Perhaps that's something all of you need to be looking into as we get closer to the 2024 election. So the best way that you can ensure that your vote is counted is by taking the appropriate measures to hold your own party officials accountable. That means calling out corruption and trickery as we see taking place here in the state of Florida by the Florida GOP. Thanks for watching. See you next time on Loomer Unleashed. I'm Laura Loomer, and if you enjoyed this content, please be sure you subscribe to my Substack, lauraloomer.substack.com. It's free to subscribe, but if you want to support my independent journalism, you can subscribe for $7 a month or $70 a year. Also, please be sure that you're following me on Twitter, Gab, Getter, and Truth Social at Laura Loomer. I'd also like to take a moment to thank the sponsor of this episode of Loomer Unleashed, Goldco. Banks are getting bailed out, and who's going to pay for it? You are. They say that taxpayers won't pay, and they say that other banks will pay. But how are those banks going to get the money? They'll probably raise your bank fees like they always do. And if the Fed step in, you'll likely also be paying an inflation tax. In times like this, storing all your money in a bank may be very risky, as we have seen. So what can two average Joes like you and I even do about it? You can protect your wealth with gold and silver, just like so many other Americans and even banks are doing right now. Call 855-317-5157 or visit goldco.com/Laura Loomer to learn how to protect your savings with gold and silver. Take action today to protect yourself and your family from financial collapse. Again, call 855-317-5157 or visit goldco.com/Laura Loomer and learn how you could get up to $10,000 in bonus silver while supplies last. That's 855-317-5157 or goldco.com/Laura Loomer.